Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and boy oh boy, yesterday was one of the wildest days that I've ever seen on old Twitter. Now if you haven't been following, Twitter is one of the most free dumpster fires you can actually get onto at the moment. Now ladies and gentlemen, why do I say dumpster fire? Well, it's not like Twitter's going anywhere, it's just that right now everything's different every day. It's probably the most fluid and entertaining platform right now, just given its leadership. Now, for those of you who don't know, the world's richest, or I guess second richest man at this point, not that it ever actually matters, when you're worth that much money, what do the numbers really mean at that point? Who really cares who's top of the leaderboard? They're all just switching hands like a dirty fleshlight. Ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk runs Twitter. He basically bought it out for $44 billion. And boy, oh boy, ever since the purchase, it has been one of the most interesting platforms, period. Now, in the last few days, there's been a few bannings that have happened regarding journalists, reporters, whatever you name it. When it came to reporting on this guy's flight, Elon owns a private jet. It was flying around the world. And basically what had happened was there were accounts that looked at the tail numbers and various data that was floating around publicly, compiled it, and basically just reported on it. Now, of course, this was proven to be a bit of a security risk, it seems, for Elon, given the fact that apparently somebody had stalked him. And yeah, he started banning accounts that would even hint at the flight issues or his private jet. Now, of course, a lot of people brought up the idea of, is this really a free speech platform when you start banning journalists and reporters? And, we can talk about this all day, every day, but frankly, the next piece is a little bit bigger than this. So during the night of during the day of the FIFA World Cup, where Argentina fucking smoked France, alright, congratulations my boys, at least my hemisphere won. It seems like Twitter enacted a policy that they removed 12 hours after they brought it in. Now I'm going to read the policy out. We recognize that many of our users are active on other social media platforms. However, we no longer allow free promotion of certain social media platforms on Twitter. Now, again, I want to talk about something regarding free speech. When Elon came in, it was a big bout that, hey, listen, free speech needs to be paramount. This guy's always promoted it. And I'm somewhat of a free speech person myself. I believe that all speech should be free, really. Unless you're out there promoting actual violence or you're calling to action on people. Whatever you say, even if I disagree with it, the fundamentals of free speech is you're allowed to say it. I don't have to agree with what you're saying, but I'll protect your right to say it. And I believe that social punishments, people who ostracize you, people who don't want to hang out with you, that just happens because of the consequences of some of your speech. Your speech should be protected, just like there shouldn't be like freedom of consequences. People are allowed to associate with you and disassociate with you based on what you're saying. But I believe firmly that you should be allowed to say what you're saying, as long as you're not calling violence on somebody or that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the fundamentals of free speech and how things work. Of course, some people may disagree with that, but again, we can agree to disagree. So when Elon came in, that's kind of the one thing you believed in. So when people start getting banned, it's a little questionable, especially when it came to how we wanted to ban people. It initially seemed like when you were banning individuals, Elon would give you sort of like a leeway, like you would have like amnesty after a while, or your bans wouldn't rather be permanent. But it seems like in some cases they were permanent, or they are. Now, a lot of those reporters did get unbanned because Elon's been doing this thing where he's democratically asking the people of Twitter, or those at least who follow him, to say yes or no to certain big policy changes or shifts, which I think is pretty cool. I've never seen a social media service ever do that. But yeah, that's one of the things that Twitter has been doing. Now, obviously, this exact policy wasn't taken well by anybody. No matter what side you were on, everyone unified and said, this is pretty goddamn stupid. Now, of course, 12 hours later, Twitter did in fact delete it. But if you look closer, there have been a few things that we can bring on for it, okay? So, for instance, what do they mean by prohibited platforms? Basically, if you were linking to Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, Truth Social, Tribble, Post, and Nostr, I haven't heard of half of these, by the way, you will actually, get banned. But again, it's really important to know that it wasn't just occasionally posting. You could occasionally mention, you could cross-post social media stuff. Like, if you found a Facebook video, you could post it on Twitter and whatnot. The problem was if you had an entire account dedicated to getting people off of Twitter over to these other platforms, which is a little enraging because the entire point of Twitter is to centralize things and sort of build a community where people of other socials come together to follow one person. Again, it also goes against the fundamental building blocks of social media and the internet if we're trying to basically draw people in and wall them off from the outside world. Wild shit. Then you also had third-party social media link aggregators like Linktree. So this is something that I kind of expected to come. Now, Linktree, for those of you who don't know, is like a website where you can just set up like 20 links that go to various places, just so that you can get people to click on this one link and then they can see all your socials on one page. Now, let's not pretend that a lot of people were doing this to circumvent rules anyways. Now, for instance, on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, I believe on every social media platform, you cannot share links to pornographic websites. But of course, what people would do is they would get link trees and they would put their OnlyFans or their Pornhub page or whatever on that so they can draw people in from the Linktree page. Basically, it was a way of proxy linking and kind of ban evading or like, sort of policy evading what was already there. It's like, I can't link my OnlyFans, but if I link to the site that links to my OnlyFans, then I'm fine. Now, of course, a few other people were also questioning in, and they were like, hey, what if we were promoting to totally normal, safe services, or anything that you didn't include in the prohibited platforms? Well, Elon kind of caved in that capacity, but it was a little weird. Now, for instance, some examples like, hey guys, follow me at my username on Instagram, okay? That, for instance, wasn't allowed. Some people were changing their username to their Mastodon social links. I still have no idea how Mastodon works. But of course, the third one was check out my profile on Facebook. And then they make a link. Now, to understand, ladies and gentlemen, every YouTuber does this. Every social media creator does this. In fact, I do it all the time when it comes to making big videos, every month on my channel. I always link from socials back home. So by technicality, we're kind of breaking the rules ever since this kicked in. You can imagine why Twitter was getting ratioed for such a stupid policy shift and why they ended up reverting it just 12 hours after, considering it was one of the dumbest things they could have ever actually done. Like, even if they said we still allow cross-posting content from any social media platform, posting links or usernames to social media platforms not listed above are also not in violation of this policy. What if your Twitter username was the same username that you would have on Instagram? You know what I mean? All in all, this was terrible for people who are artists, okay? People who got commissions from Twitter. This was terrible for them because for anybody in the social media service or the game, you have to effectively spread yourself across every platform. If Twitter restricts you, well, then you got to ostracize Twitter from your social media pool. Specifically, we will remove accounts created solely for the purpose of promoting other social platforms. Again, what if a YouTuber literally just had a Twitter account to promote their product? Now, of course, this one rule was kind of bringing some ire from the EU, but of course, their rules don't really kick in until 2024. But I feel like it's important to really mention it. For instance, the European Union is pretty much like the biggest ball cruncher when it comes to a lot of these tech companies. And what the EU wants to do is kind of regulate big tech a little bit, which I think is okay. They're putting in competition bills, effectively looking into preventing gatekeepers, into squashing smaller rivals that come in. And again, when Twitter started basically coming around and preventing any access to its direct competition, that wasn't something that was ever going to be looked favorably on by any regulator whatsoever. Elon also made one little mistake, in my opinion, too. Again, I'm not a lawyer or anything, and of course, Elon is a much smarter businessman than I could ever be. Elon says, hey, Twitter should be easy to use, but no more relentless free advertising of competitors. No traditional publisher allows this, and neither will Twitter. Which is an interesting choice of words for a social media service that pretty much relies on Section 230 protections. Why you would ever identify yourself as a publisher to begin with, being the CEO of your company, is wild to me. And I'm wondering how Twitter legal even let this go through, given the fact that Section 230 is so imperative for any social media service like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. No one would be caught dead calling themselves a publisher. I get trying to prevent other platforms from going off of yours. I get it from a business sense, but this seems like a lot more shots in the foot than you would ever need. Elon was also tweeting out some other wild shit too. Again, I want to try to confirm this one as well too. In some parts of the world, journalists get murdered for crossing the wrong people. Hold on, misinformation alert. This was a fake tweet, and I wanted to bring it out to you because I've seen this floated around way too much. And again, if it's something that I try to do on this channel is prevent misinformation. No, Elon did not tweet this. This would be kind of unhinged. Of course, the wildest thing came out last night where after all of this, Elon Musk had to tweet out another poll. Should I step down as head of Twitter? I will abide by the results of this poll. Now, it shouldn't shock you that the poll, the result of this ended up being a yes after the entire period ended. And of course, this signifies that if Elon's following his Twitter polls exactly as he wants to, he is going to step down as the CEO of Twitter, replace it with somebody else, and probably, and rightfully so, should go back to like Tesla, SpaceX, or something that actually matters. Something that he can actually, make a difference in. I think one thing that I learned about Twitter in general is that, like, it is a wild thing. Elon Musk is a wild guy. And honestly, throughout this entire situation, he really didn't even need to buy Twitter to begin with. I really don't feel like this was something that he entirely wanted to do. If you look at way back into the history of it, obviously a lawsuit pretty much forced the guy into buying the service anyways, and he's kind of just been rolling with it since. I also firmly do believe that this was going to happen anyways. I think in the last few weeks, Elon's probably realized that he wasn't really fit to work and lead a social media company because it's a different beast compared to what he's usually doing. And I think this was going to happen anyways. I feel like he wanted to look like a martyr doing it, to be honest with you. But yeah, this era seems like it's going to be over anyways, and he's going to move on to things that he's more in the comfort zone of. And I also have to believe that some of the Tesla, whales who've put money into that company, after seeing how far it's dropping, and again, the time and time again when the Tesla stock is being sold just to solidify funds for Twitter, I think a lot of questions have to be asked. It's like, why are you putting this useful money into what is a financial dump, so to speak? Again, it's way more complicated than that. This is just me trying to generalize it for everyone. But I also believe that this was a factoring decision and like basically leaving and sort of rewinding away from Twitter and going all the way back to something that he's far more comfortably fit to lead. Now, of course, at the end of the day, after massive policy changes and big shifts and big shakeups of the headquarters, Twitter has been through a wacky, wild ride. And while Elon's not leaving exactly, I think it's time for him to actually step out and replace it with somebody that probably knows the sphere of social media a little bit better. Somebody that's not making a national headline out of his service. Ladies and gentlemen, this kind of marks the end of the wildest era of social media Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar. And honestly, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. And before I say dislike it if you dislike it, which you absolutely can, I don't want to just check out yet. I really do want to stress on the free speech bit. I know it's not the safe thing to really say, because there's a lot of problems that come with, giving everybody whatever they want in terms of speech. Obviously, some can say things that'll incite others and whatnot, but at the end of the day, the internet is the last bastion of true freedom, all right? And honestly, when it comes to free speech and it comes to actual user privacy and safety and lessen the tracking of individuals, these are things that I end up fighting for pretty tooth and nail. I understand these things don't lead to perfect outcomes, but I believe if you're going to live in a free, honest society with everyone around you, then you need to extend freedoms, basic freedoms, to everyone, even if you completely disagree with them. Because I believe if you take freedoms away from individuals, that same reasoning and logic could be applied right back to you. I think everyone should be given a clearance to speak what they want to speak. And as long as you're not inciting violence, and as long as you're not, doing anything that could actually cause some serious harm physically to other people, then you should be free to say what you want to say. Okay, simple as that. I know it may not be the safest take to have in these situations, but honestly, these freedoms are the last few things that we have, and that's pretty much how I choose to go with life. Anyways, this is me, Mutahar, and Twitter's been a wild place. I am